Welcome to our very first client video. I'm Julie Sleber, co-founder of echo.legal, and I'm very pleased to have with me members of the Russell Speechlys team. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Tess?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tess Bartley. I am the head of legal technology at Russell Speechlys. So I have a team of technologists who support all of the different divisions and practice groups in delivering client matters with technology.
Hi everybody, I'm Antony Vundi and I'm a trainee solicitor currently sat in his third seat in the real estate team.
Hi, I'm Kate Knox and I'm a knowledge development lawyer at Russell Speechlys, and among other things I develop and maintain my team's precedents, precedent contracts, etc.
Great. Well, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate your time on this. So here at Echo Legal, we help law firms and in-house teams implement their automation strategy, whether that's through automating their precedents or designing client portals with tools such as HiQ. And we've been working together with you for just over 2 years, helping to implement your document automation strategy across several practice areas in the firm. Tess, perhaps could I start with asking you what do you see as the main benefits of working with either with Echo specifically or outside consultants in general?
Sure. So for me, it's about leveraging the right balance of expertise with our resource time. So when building out this team, initially I joined the firm in early 2021, and we had no technologist resource at all, but we already had in the firm Contract Express, HiQ, DocuSign, and a few other tools that had been bought by IT or the knowledge teams, particularly because of the COVID lockdown. So things that were useful for online collaboration. And the challenge was to make sure that we're leveraging those capabilities of the tools, but without any team, obviously that's quite challenging. So it's about being able to access a core team of experts who've got not just the technological background, but also the legal backgrounds that your team have got, and other consultants as well apply. But obviously we've worked really closely with you in the past few years. So it means then we can get the document automation pieces, especially that low-hanging fruit that really brings immediate return on investment, out into the business as quickly as possible and show them the value of it, so that then they can see that it's worth investing in doing more of it and looking for technologists who can support these things going forward.
Right. Thanks for that. So one of the things we often get asked about is getting a return on investment and maximizing use of the automated precedents that we help provide. And so in this session, we'd like to talk about one way of doing that, and that's through the use of either however you define it, no code or all option templates. And so Tess, do you want to explain how this collaboration came about?
Yeah, so for me, what I always want to do is say yes. When someone says, can we automate this? Can we do this? I want to say yes. But I'm always thinking about the but, what's the impact of the improvement going to be? And how are we going to mitigate that and make sure that those impacts or knock-on effects just don't actually make the change not worth doing, or create new problems that then mean that the end users or the people that own the content and the documents think that this wasn't worth their time and energy, because then that's a bad use case, and those kind of things permeate throughout the firm, and then it really can impact the reputation of a process improvement or a technology. So when automating the precedents, what became apparent to me within this firm was that the owners, who are mostly the knowledge lawyers and some of the senior associates in other teams, were still maintaining their flat precedents. And I was a bit baffled by this, and I thought, I don't really understand why you're still doing that. And part of it was a change culture around trusting the technology and thinking about whether it might go down, and what are they going to do if the system's not available. But obviously this is additional maintenance time and a potential for risk where the document could get out of sync with the automated one. So I looked into this a bit more and tried to work out, what were the things that people were worried about, and how could we maybe mitigate that, and then reached out to Echo to brainstorm for a solution.
And I think just to highlight one of the points Tess mentioned earlier, working with Echo Legal, we knew that we'd be working with specialists who importantly have that legal background, and they understand the niceties of working with legal documents when creating those no code all options templates. That was a really important factor for us.
Oh, good, thanks. That's nice to know. Kate, you're the precedent owner. Why was this an important sort of thing to solve? Why were people wanting to do this?
Yeah, so the baffling element that Tess mentioned earlier. So effectively, we had our original automation of our suite of consultant appointments, and as mentioned, we were maintaining both the pre-automated, the flat versions, and also the automated versions. And one of the drivers for this was the ability to create that clean version of a template to share with others for discussion with clients, for training purposes, and actually also to be able to run some comparisons across the suite of the automated documents. And particularly over the last 12 to 18 months, we've found that there's been a lot of change in the construction industry around building safety. And as a consequence, that's actually led to a lot of amendments being processed across the suite of automated contracts. And so the inefficiencies of updating basically duplicates was something that led us to have this conversation around, could we create this no code all options suite?
Yeah, and I guess that goes back to Tess saying about the when you get out of sync, then that you might actually lose the engagement with the automated precedents because the flat ones are actually more up to date.
Yeah.
And I guess what's great about this type of solution is because you're able to generate those sort of no code versions of the precedents, then you could also generate partial precedents as well. So if, for example, this was on a lease, then you might have lots of variations of lease, but if you wanted just the retail version, it would still look like a precedent, but it would give you just the retail options of that lease, for example. So it's another good use of these types of templates. So Antony, you're a user of the automated templates. What's been your experience with them so far?
So yes, I have, I suppose, first-hand experience of the use of precedents and templates. And always going into these things, there is a slight hesitation around adapting to their use and how things are going to work. But I'm honestly pleased to report that working with these templates, in my experience, has been really intuitive, and that's been sort of the general experience of everyone else I've spoken to about them. They really seem to strike the right balance between being holistic in all the options they cover, also simultaneously not being too overwhelming in trying to cover every minutia and option within a document. So I was pleased to see that, and it's really helpful working with them in that sense. But of course, another great advantage, and this is really something I want to hammer home, is that using the templates is so much more time efficient. And these little savings in time, they really do tend to add up, considering the pure volume of work and drafting work that's completed by lawyers at a similar level to myself.
Great, that sounds like a really good experience with them. So Kate, coming back to you, when we wanted to start looking at turning these automated templates into the all option type templates, what were some of the challenges that you needed to think about in getting these up and running? I'm sure it's not just a case of users just going on and not selecting any answers to the questions because that will perhaps bring up blanks or maybe put brackets into the generated documents, and it wouldn't necessarily give a lot of help as to what's meant to go in there. Similarly with optional text, you'll just get the text put in that wouldn't necessarily say what option needs to be chosen. So what were some of the other things that people might need to consider when wanting to implement these types of templates?
The clean document that was being generated had to make sense, and it had to not be missing content as well. One of the aspects that we particularly focused on, which we weren't expecting, but when we originally automated our suite of contracts, we took what were footnotes in the flat versions and we built them into guidance notes in the questionnaire. And so what had occurred to us was, in creating the no code all options versions, effectively the fee earner is just clicking a button and the document is generated. So they're not having the benefit of all those guidance notes in the questionnaire. And so we needed to consider how we best address that so that you either put back in that content as footnotes or find another workaround. So that was something that we had to consider.
I would say I'm quite conscious that as a lawyer training in this day and age, I'm really learning and developing my skills in a totally different environment, not so much pen and paper. And there is a worry that there needs to still be that learning experience going on while working with innovative technologies. But I can honestly guarantee that using any precedents does not equal going into autopilot. And there's a serious learning curve in working in concert with the guidance, and that's why it's so important. Rather than perhaps previously reaching out to someone else and seeking help or asking for answers, often the footnotes in themselves will actually help me get that answer without needing to speak to someone. And therefore, making use of that guidance and seeing how it applies to the document, the learning element is not really lost. In fact, it's probably enhanced in some ways.
That's a really good point, Anthony. There's often that, as you mentioned, that sort of worry in the industry that trainees will miss out by not going through the kind of drudge of creating a document off the bat.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we do hear a lot when we talk about, are we losing something by automating contracts? And I think for us, that's not where we see the learning opportunities for our trainees, scrolling through those contracts, looking for the relevant set of square brackets to populate, a lot of information being duplicated. Actually, where we see the learning opportunity is that second stage where they're getting involved in the negotiations. That's where we want to really maximise their involvement. And the more efficiencies we can build into that first stage, the better it is for all.
Great. Yeah, really good point. Thanks, Kate. So, Tess, how does this offering and the use of the automated documents in general fit in with your firm strategy?
Well, for the Advanced Client Solutions department, which is the new department set up by Joe Cohen last year, it's part of a puzzle of different alternative delivery offerings that we have. So we look at technology, where legal project managers or paralegals could be used as an alternative resource, and all of the different ways that we can make the fee earners more efficient and the matters be delivered in a sort of more cost-effective way for our clients, and also making the jobs of the fee earners more interesting so that they're not doing, like Kate says, that drudge work. You don't have to pay your dues in order to be a good solicitor. There are other ways to learn, and the technology is necessary to compete for the work these days. Like, law firms have all got these sorts of tools, and they might have a different one, they might have a different way of doing it, but if we can't compete on the bottom line, then it means that the work isn't profitable for the firm. So then you can't prioritize that kind of matter in the future. So it's really important that we look at that whole offering, not just sort of, oh, let's put a piece of technology into it, but also how does that piece of technology impact the way that the matter type is delivered now? Do we need to adapt the process, use an alternative resource maybe? And that's one of the main pieces around the strategy. But also on top of that, of course, generative AI is enormous. Everybody's talking about it. There's lots and lots going on in that space. And we've been working on our own internal generative AI chatbot called Psychic, which our fee earners use for doing parts of their work as well. So that's another way of helping people to be more efficient. It's used in business services too, because we're all professionals delivering services to the clients as well. So we've built out the existing tech stack that sat before in legal technology with me, with a few new pieces since Joe joined, including that generative AI. But it's also, for me, really important that we're leveraging everything that we've got and not getting distracted always by what the new thing is, but making sure that we're still having that value from the existing tech stack. Because if something's just not really worth having anymore, we need to think about what the alternative would be, and not be paying license fees for something that isn't needed anymore. So all these software as a service, the SaaS tools that we have, the benefit of that is they get updated with new features all the time, and we don't have to have massive change programs with IT implementing all of this stuff. But what that means is that we've got to stay on top of it all the time as well, and be testing the new features and seeing, how could this be useful? Is this going to work in our firm? How does that then now impact the process, or who does the piece of work? So doing that as a sort of constant continuous improvement program within the legal technology team, and now with the legal project managers as well, because they're helping deliver the matters and they're using the technology, it really helps getting that direct feedback within our department. But I think use cases and case studies are really, really important for that sort of peer referencing. So Antony saying this works really well for me to the other trainees on the programme really helps to drive the culture of innovation so that people aren't scared of it and they've heard from someone who does their sort of job that this is good, not just me barking about it from an IT team. So part of the strategy under Joe is also about creating and nurturing that innovation culture, and being able to not just talk about these tools, but actually really adopt and embed them. So trainees like Antony have started on our new scheme, which is called Russell Up. And it means that we're sort of rewiring them in a way, really. It's not some terrible science experiment, but I mean, lawyers are generally, they err towards being a bit risk adverse, which is why they're good lawyers. But you've got to sort of create that culture where it's okay to fail, and then you start again, you try again. Now, we're not going to be doing that all the time. You've got to sometimes say, right, we just need to get on with this and deliver the client work, but we want to create a really kind of open culture with psychological safety around trying things and constantly innovating and constantly thinking about better ways of doing things. So that's we're starting with the trainees and making sure that they're then growing in the firm with that sort of mentality.
Great, that sounds great. It's really, as you say, it's really important to have slightly change that culture so that failing is okay. Antony, do you want to say a few words about how you've been involved with Russell Up?
Yeah, sure. So I've been involved in Russell Up. I'm currently on my second rotation of projects. I've already delivered 2 minor or somewhat minor projects to my previous team, which is construction. And I'm currently working on a third technically project in my current seat of real estate. So to give you a bit of a brief of what Russell Up really involves, and particularly what modules, as we call them, you trainees are involved with, we generally structure it around 8 or so modules. And to give you a flavor of what they could be, we go from things like artificial intelligence, which is, I believe, the most popular one right now, which probably sort of syncs up with it being a very popular phrase in general in the industry to use right now. Also, document automation, data visualization, design thinking, and robotic process automation, as well as application building, which I think my previous project broadly fell under. So yeah, across the seat, trainees go from thinking up a project, and this is really useful to teach you to think outside of the box and take that risk and really consider, is there a different way to do things? And is it really possible for us to find a different way? And then it goes on to actually creating the product and working with, as Tess said, Joe's team, and having that dedicated developer to work alongside you and really put the vision into practice and see how it works. And you get to experiment with it, pilot it out to bits of the team. And essentially, by the end of your 6-month seat, the idea is you go on a full-on rollout and the team gets a new piece of technology to play with, which you present to the team, sort of flip the switch, and you turn into the teacher to the rest of the team and you train them on a piece of technology. So there's a really useful bit of reverse mentoring going on there as well towards the end. And again, and then you start that process all over again. And hopefully the idea is by the time you've done it 3 times over, that culture of innovation we've spoken about does build up within each cohort of trainees, and then that's taken forward as they, grow in the business and become associates and so on.
Yeah, sounds great. There's loads of skills being developed there, not just the sort of legal side of things, but and the innovation, but just even the sort of presenting and like you say, the reverse mentoring. That all sounds really good.
Yeah, we do now ask all of the trainees to present at the end of their project, even if their project didn't finish. Perhaps it's fallen into another seat, so someone else will take it forward in the next seat. We don't want people to feel limited that everything has to be done within a 6-month period. But also, it's very possible that there isn't an output, because what they've done is they've looked into something and realised that actually there isn't really anything we need to build. There isn't a new piece of technology. There isn't a new way to do it. But we've maybe tweaked a little bit of the way that something has been done. And so it's important that they take away from it that it's fine that there wasn't a result as well, and that actually looking into it, proving that we're doing things the best way possible already, or making a few tweaks that maybe don't seem quite as groundbreaking as maybe an app that someone's built. It's all valuable, and that's worth doing.
Absolutely, because otherwise, how will you know if you don't do that sort of research? No, it sounds really good. Excellent. Okay, well, we've come to the end of our time, but it's been great to chat with you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. For those wanting to implement something like the no-code templates that we originally started talking about, then and you can see how it works as well in Contract Express, we've got a video you can watch, or just get in touch to find out more. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.